If you are new to the Hermès game, then strap in because it is quite a ride.
If you don't like designer luxury, please scroll past because you may feel triggered.
Ugh, is the Hermès game worth playing or not? Can someone please tell me?
I might be stupid, but I want to start playing the Hermès game.
I've spent $16,409.04 trying to play the Hermès game to score a Birkin, a Kelly, or any bag for that matter with no luck.
The Hermès game is literally so embarrassing. I just walked into a boutique for like the 6th time.
You shopped here before? No, this is actually my first time. What are you doing here?
Hermes is so full of
I'm officially opting out of the Hermes quota bag game.
The Hermès game is one of luxury shopping's biggest scams. The more time I spend on the internet, the more I feel like we live in such an amazing time, even with all this crazy stuff going on. I mean, we have access to so much information. For example, hundreds of years ago, people used to think that zebras were mythical creatures that couldn't possibly exist. And now, at the touch of a button, we can watch a movie where a zebra and his friends escape a New York zoo and end up in Madagascar. It's so majestic, wonderful, amazing, like every possible good adjective you can think of applies to this.
you too.
So yeah, I do think we live in a really amazing time, but then I see videos about a scam called the Hermès game, and then I kind of question if we're actually in the best timeline. If you don't know what the Hermès game is, there's a creator on TikTok named Mason Ristofriccionito or something like that. I don't really know. And she does a great job at explaining what it is.
I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the Hermès game, all over social media. But what exactly does it mean? I'm gonna tell you, you can't just walk into an Hermès store and ask for a Birkin or a Kelly bag. Well, technically you can, but you're certainly gonna get some funny looks. In order to get offered an Hermès Birkin or a Kelly directly from the boutique, you have to play what's called the game. And the game is where you pick a sales associate and you spend an inordinate amount of money in hopes of getting offered a quota bag. Nobody knows for sure how much money you have to spend in order to get offered a bag. I think it is very different for everyone. However, I would say you need to spend a minimum of $10,000 to $20,000 before you're even offered a quota bag. And I have heard of some people spending $20K plus and not being offered a single quota bag. But let's say you are offered a quota bag. There is a catch. After spending all of that money, it probably won't be the exact bag that you want. In fact, a lot of the times, you are offered a bag that you didn't even ask for. And that is the Hermès game.
I feel like there's already so much to unpack here. More than my Amazon Basics 30-inch hard side large check luggage hard shell suitcase with wheels can even pack. Basically, if you somehow find your way to one of the 293 different Hermès stores and you ask for a Kelly or a Birkin bag, the sales associate will literally laugh in your face and think you are a big dummy. You're gonna have egg all over your face and it's gonna be embarrassing. Everyone's gonna be laughing. It's not gonna be fun, okay? It's gonna be really not fun. The reason being that these bags are considered quota bags, and the whole strategy behind them being that they produce a very limited amount of them so they can control the supply and increase the rarity and desirability of them. And for my fellow guys out there who might not have understood this at first like I didn't, let me put it in a way that you can understand. You find big and cool stick, biggest and coolest stick of all. There's only one of these sticks. Now it's most valuable stick of all time. Now are we on the same page? Are you catching my vibe? Catching the drift? You get it? Good. The only way you can actually get one of these quota bags is if you build a relationship with a sales associate, and once they decide that you are a chosen one, particularly after you spend an absurd amount of money, they will offer you one of these quota bags. And it's actually not even guaranteed that you will get what you're looking for. They might not offer you one of these bags. They might offer you something else, like a knuckle sandwich. And I don't know if this is just me, but that kind of model almost feels a little bit scammy. And I get the whole scarcity thing, like you want to increase the value of these products by producing a very limited amount of them, but at some point it gets a little absurd. People are going to Hermès stores and practically begging for them to take their money just so they can get a chance to be offered one of these bags. And it's not even guaranteed that you'll get offered the one that you want.
This is high-key cringe.
Recently, I actually saw a TikTok of a woman who visited an Hermès store multiple times a day for multiple days just so she could possibly be offered one of these bags.
The Hermès game is literally so embarrassing. I just walked into a boutique for like the 6th time in 3 days asking them to take my money. I am literally begging them at this point and they're like, no, we don't want it. I actually like have the ick for myself. Like, joke's on me. Anyway, I'll be stopping back again this afternoon.
I do appreciate the self-awareness in this video, specifically how she says she's giving herself the ick, but then she keeps going, so I don't, there's no point. of her. The ick doesn't matter, I guess. And also, I've never heard of anything escape the grasp of the ick. Like, once something is declared an ick, you're done, you're canceled. There's nothing left for you, except somehow this inconsequential handbag managed to escape. So that's pretty cool, pretty neat. Guess that's a life hack. Maybe, I don't know. To me, this kind of feels like the real life version of World of Warcraft, where you would just pay to have your character reach max level. And yes, I did just compare exclusive designer handbags to World of Warcraft. I know, it's pretty impressive. And not only are we having to go through the shame of begging our sales associates overlords for one of these leather bags, but we're also willing to spend, or should I say gamble, thousands of dollars just to increase our chances of getting one of these bags.
I've spent $16,409.04 trying to play the Hermes game to score a Birkin, a Kelly, or any bag for that matter with no luck, so I dumped my essay and started over with someone new, which literally felt like such a waste of time and money. But within our first appointment, my new essay offered me the coveted suede and Shirley and shirt free sandals I've been dying for, a few exotic orans, and a freaking bag, which granted isn't a quota bag, and at first I honestly wasn't even feeling it because it kind of gave like Constance meets utilitarian, especially with the strap. But then they brought it out in like this mauve pale with the palladium hardware, and I literally almost died because it was just so perfect and so cute. And above all else, it was my very first ever Hermes bag. Like, I just never thought I'd see the day. So I took her, the chiffre, and a pair of orans, and my total came up to $9,126.83, which means that now my total Hermes game spend for the brand is $25,535.87.
This creator is just very casually admitting to spending over $25,000 on her journey to get one of these Kelly or Birkin bags, which even then she still wasn't offered one. That's embarrassing. She spent the equivalent of 2 million Robux, and she was offered sandals that look like they're made from a destroyed gingerbread house, and then this pink bag. And I wanted to make a joke about this pink bag, but I couldn't think of one. So the joke is that it's pink. So basically, this whole Hermes game is just a way of getting people to spend more money. And I honestly think it kind of walks a very, very thin line between being totally ethical and being very much not ethical. The fact that there doesn't seem to be a clear line on when you're offered a quota bag, and then it's not even guaranteed you'll be offered one, these two things kind of make me a little weird. They make me feel a little weird, kind of give me a little scammy vibe. And while I do think that people are responsible for their own actions, at the end of the day, there's no one they can blame except themselves for making these purchases. I do think there's an argument that can be made about how this practice can encourage a form of gambling. So on one hand, while I do believe that people are responsible for their own actions, I do think it's a little bit sus for a store to encourage this type of gambling behavior, especially for people who might be a little bit more prone to engage in gambling type behavior. Which I do want to be clear that both of these beliefs can coexist. It's not one or the other. And actually, this practice that Hermes was participating in resulted in them getting a class action lawsuit filed against them. Basically, this lawsuit says that Hermes is using a practice known as tying to illegally force customers to spend thousands of dollars on products they don't want or need in order to get access to the products that they do want. So basically, Hermes is gatekeeping products, and you're only able to get them by spending money. The lawsuit also argues that Hermes has a monopoly on these quota bags, which prevents market competition, which I think is a very interesting argument, because it's not like Hermes is the only store selling handbags. Maybe they're the only store selling these specific ones, but that's kind of a weird argument to make. It's like if I make my own brand of Jordan handbags, like sure, I guess I have a monopoly on Jordan handbags, but that's what makes it my product. But the thing is, you don't have to buy the Jordan handbag. You can buy one of the other billion types of handbags that exist. Like you can burn the Jordan handbags or blow them up, or feed them to an alligator, do whatever you want with them. But this lawsuit was thrown out because the plaintiffs didn't prove that Hermes actually required shoppers to spend any money in order to get offered one of these bags. So remember earlier when I said it was a little bit sus, a little bit sketchy that Hermes didn't have a clear line of when you're offered these bags? Well, that might be by design, because by not having this line, they're able to say things like,
oh, you don't actually have to spend any money.
But I think we all kind of know that, that you probably do have to spend a little bit of money. So, legally, it makes sense, but it is a little sus. And actually, I think that's probably totally fair. Like at the end of the day, I don't think it's Hermes's responsibility if people decide to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on their products, especially if they never explicitly say that they're even gonna offer you one of these Birkin or Kelly bags, one of these quota bags. They never explicitly say they're going to offer you one if you spend money.
You may not get a bag,
bruh.
But like I said, I think this whole situation really does represent a kind of strange time for our culture. I mean, yes, for as long as the org chart of humanity has existed, people have craved status. But now with social media, it's thrown in our faces way more than it has been before. It's all up in our face, like all over our faces, being, you know, I don't know what that was, but anyways. And because of this, there's this whole wave of luxury content that seems like it just promotes and normalizes a kind of unsustainable lifestyle, specifically by throwing all of these expensive products in front of us and then associating them with the same status and value that humans crave. Here's a video of what I'm talking about.
POV Hermès Game made you buy $83 eyelash curler.
It's probably no secret that I'm not too familiar with the world of eyelash curlers. I mean, look at these guys, they don't know what a curler is. But I do know that $83 is insanely expensive for an eyelash curler. I mean, when I saw this, I immediately looked up eyelash curlers and they were in the range of $10 to $30. And if I had to guess, I would say that this $83 eyelash curler isn't functionally better than these cheaper ones, especially not to a super high degree. And in my humble little small opinion, I do think that social media glorifies things like the Hermès game, and it causes people to have an easier time rationalizing and normalizing buying more expensive and unnecessary things. And for those of you who say something like,
don't blame social media for people's actions,
or people make their own choices, it's not TikTok's fault, or whatever else you might say to that effect, yes, I agree. Sometimes I get comments where people say things to that effect, but I think there's been a confusion between responsibility and then talking about external factors that may influence someone's decision. Both of those things can coexist and be separate. You can be responsible for something while also being influenced by something else. It doesn't mean that it's any less your fault that you did these things, but I think it adds context to why a decision was made. For example, if I buy a $10,000 garden gnome, that is 100% my responsibility. It's nobody else's fault but my own that I bought that $10,000 garden gnome. But at the same time, if I didn't get that urge to buy that $10,000 garden gnome until I started hanging out with people who also buy $10,000 garden gnomes, I think it's fair to say that part of the reason I went into debt buying this garden gnome was because I was influenced by the people I was hanging out with. I mean, it's like however that one quote goes where your personality is the sum of the 5 people you hang out with most or whatever it is. I don't remember how it goes, but it's something like that. So while it is 100% my fault that I bought this $10,000 garden gnome, there are other external influences that might have led to me doing that. It's not to say that these theoretical people that I was hanging out with are to be blamed or that they're responsible for my actions, but I think it's a little naive to ignore these external influences. And that's what I believe happens with social media. It influences us. The more we see certain types of content, the more normal that becomes and the easier it is to rationalize behaving in certain ways. So now with this whole genre of Hermès game type content, I think it glorifies and normalizes this type of expensive luxury designer handbag product stuff. It also starts to become easier to believe that buying this stuff is normal, and if we're not able to meet that standard of normal, we might feel less valuable or less special or whatever. Like if I'm walking around in my white t-shirt and I see somebody with a quota bag, I might start to feel like a little bit of a caveman. And then I'll start walking around town and people will start saying,
oh look, here comes Caveman Jordan. Caveman Jordan is walking down the street looking like a big dummy.
That's probably exactly what's gonna happen. That's exactly how it's gonna go. I mean, you don't have to go too deep into the depths of the Hermès game TikToks to see how these quota bags are being deeply associated with value, status, wealth, and all of these other things that people want for Christmas. At one point, I actually came across an unboxing video. I don't know why I put that in quotes, but I came across an unboxing video that I think is a perfect example of this.
After teasing you guys for about 6 days on my stories, I finally am unboxing my Hermès bag, and this is not just any bag. It's very difficult. It's a quota bag and it's the Birkin 25. So I revealed it. I got this bag from Dusseldorf, Germany. I spent about 5 to 6 hours in the store since it opened. I have probably another full story time on this, but for now this is just my unboxing. I thought it would be really aesthetic to do this in the plane because I barely got videos in store because it wasn't allowed, which was really a bummer. I'm trying to remind myself that it's just a bag and I can wear it. I don't need to be so specific about it, but just look at this color. It is a Birkin 25 in the shade Cray. Shade, lol, I'm so used to saying shade because of makeup, but it is in the color Cray. It is so stunning. This is one of the most beautiful bags I've owned.
You don't have to have a master's degree in TikTok studies to see that the first half of this video pretty much just feels like a flex. Sure, she's talking about this bag, but then she's sure to show us a full view of this first class airplane seat room thing. It is like a room. It is crazy, which I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. I'm kind of impressed. I especially love that they have this little mini bar thing filled with alcohol, because I guess this airline doesn't have a policy against getting too turnt mid-flight. I don't know. Anyways, my thought with videos like this, especially if we keep seeing them, is that it subconsciously wires our brain to associate wealth and status with quota bags. Almost as if buying these things somehow grants us the same level of access to wealth and status and weird little alcoholic mini bars. And my whole point is that the Hermès game indirectly promotes this kind of content, this kind of pursuit of materialistic things, and overall promotes a set of values that I feel like are not beneficial to society at large. All these bags, all these credit card swipes, all this exclusivity, it doesn't mean anything. At first, the Hermès game might seem exciting, glamorous, and like you get to be part of an exclusive elite club. But remember what they say, the house always wins. But maybe this isn't even just an Hermès problem, but maybe it's an everybody problem. Maybe at some level we're all playing a version of this game. Maybe we trade authenticity for approval, meaning for aesthetics, or our values for clout. Maybe there's a piece of all of us that is willing to pay anything to feel special in hopes of finding happiness. But what if this happiness isn't found in having things that other people don't, but instead in valuing things that other people forgot? I believe that the happiness we're looking for can be found in the time we spend with others, the peacefulness of an early morning, or the freedom of not having to perform for strangers on the internet. Not to say that you can't have any nice things or any luxury items, I'm not saying that. But instead, I'm saying we shouldn't believe that these nice things are what give us value and purpose. Because let's be honest, the Hermès game isn't about handbags. It's about trying to fill something that money ultimately can't fill. And the moment we stop playing the game is the same moment that we win. And so with that, I want to leave you with this quote from Coco Chanel. Some people think that luxury is the opposite of poverty. It is not. It is the opposite of vulgarity.